Hey, folks, thanks so much for coming to the Capitalism for Good podcast. It's here where we'll focus on exploring how we both make and spend our dollars to benefit the greater good. Folks, today we have Connor Treacy, entrepreneur, jack of all trades, party planner, nightclub owner in the music industry, planning political events, a current student getting his master's degree, all of the above. And even after speaking with him for an hour today and then having a little check in with him a few days ago as well, I am still not convinced that he fully sees his value and his advice as kind of a leader and a person throughout the world. If you want to understand what a true connector's value is, I think this is the episode for you. This is the interview to listen to. Connor talks about how he started in his career trajectory just being a teenager throwing parties and not really like knowing where things were going to go or what was going to catch on or kind of what the next thing was. And he's got this view of life that things are just like serendipitously falling into his lap and he's getting these offers. But there is something very, very cool, and there's something that we could all learn from someone who truly treats and interacts with people of all different kinds, of all different demographics, of absolutely anything, and treats them the same way and gives them the same value and just lets that be the leader of what's going on in his life and the things that he is doing. And I think that is truly, truly admirable. And he's got such a like low key vibe when he's talking about the things that he's doing and his management philosophy and his driver. And no matter how many times that I tried to like nail him down and to get him to say like, what's next? What's your next goal? Why do you think it is? He is just like, I don't know. How do we know? How do we know what's going on? And it's interesting to watch someone who has been in so many different fields and has an interest in so many different things and seems to truly be living the life of a lifelong learner. And I'll say it again, a connector. His ability to garner momentum and garner crowds and gather people together and really, really find something that is uplifting is very cool. So this is an exciting one. He's got a different take and a different outlook on the world, and I am excited for y'all to hear it, and I'm excited for y'all to kind of take away whatever you can from this just like laid back but yet hard worker's view and his philosophy and everything that he has to share. So enjoy. Here, we'll just get started. And what I would love for you to jump in with is kind of taking us through your career journey, all of the different things that you have done, all of your little ventures. I shouldn't say little ventures, all of your big giant ventures,
No,
and
no,
like
we can go.
how
There are little
how
ventures.
we got to where you are. I mean, they add up. All the little things that we do, even though they start small, like add up to be like big giant things to get us to where we are.
That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. I basically am from LA, kind of had like a normal upbringing, played sports, didn't really I was pretty good at tennis. I was never like, like gonna be like number one in the world or something like that, but I definitely was like probably in the top like people that played like in SoCal and stuff. So I had that going on, but as far as like work related dreams or like things that I thought I was going to do later on in life, like I didn't really know what my thing was,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And so I think when I was like in high school, towards the end of it, maybe like senior year or something, I had the idea to like just start throwing parties. And I think like the first one I did maybe was like on my 19th birthday. And it was like super like small and janky. It was literally like in a backyard, like house party type thing, you know? So that's like how it all started. And I would say that I just kept trying to find like places to do the next event at. And then, by like March or April, that's like when the big one happened where I was on the news and it was like the Project X thing. So, I mean, I would say it like happened pretty quick, I guess, but it definitely was like something that I like thought about all the time and was like trying to like build on it, but I didn't really have like a plan. And then I just, from there just kept trying to like add things to it, so I would have done that party like, November of 2011, and then by like March or April 2012, Project X happened, and then by that summer, I already was like going on Google and like booking YG and like renting out like an 18 plus venue and like selling tickets on Facebook. So there was like always a clear progression, but I guess like I didn't like think that like I was gonna be doing all of that necessarily. Does that make sense? I didn't really have like a plan,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so that's kind of how it started. And so then it kind of became a thing where I was doing like 500 or 1,000 capacity like events. I was doing like downtown LA warehouse parties. I was doing like 18 plus Hollywood nightclubs. I also was doing like house parties. And then I would say like right when I turned 21, so like November, I got invited to like a big 21 plus nightclub and then started getting hired by all the big 21 plus nightclubs. And then it kind of like morphed into, me bringing out a lot of the like young celebrities, and some of them were older celebrities too, but I was kind of like the young guy that was like doing it, I became like known for it kind of. So, morphed from me doing like these mass things to more like curated, like bringing key people and stuff like that. And so did that for a few years. When I was like 24, like 2017, I got hired at Universal Music Group as an A&R and a manager, and they just reached out to me. I wasn't even trying to work in music. So, obviously I think like if you're looking at the trajectory of all this, like it feels like there's momentum the whole time, but there was a lot of times where like I almost like lost it all, or I thought it was done, or this, and it felt like things weren't moving. So I guess like t when you take a step back from it all, it looks like that. But during that whole time, like I just never know what's gonna happen next. So a lot of times it just feels like confusing and like sucks. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Sure do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So started working at Universal Music Group. I think I would work there for about 2 years. Started working with this rock act named Youngblood. He had like 2,000 followers and like one song out, and we built him up to being, like a multi-platinum selling artist. I did records with him and Halsey, Travis Barker, Machine Gun Kelly. And then I also was managing a producer, got him placed on Dua Lipa's opening single on her album Future Nostalgia, and that won a Grammy. And so kind of like, that was like my 2 years there. Decided to leave just because I felt like I kind of always been like entrepreneurial, and that was like my first taste of being like in a corporate setting. And so I thought maybe it would just be easier to like do my own thing. And so I left, and then like literally 3 or 4 months after I left, COVID hit. So like the whole industry shut down, which
Right.
was nuts. Yeah, which was like a weird. I always like like I don't know if like being like pessimistic is like the right word, but I always like am like super conscious of like, okay, like I wasn't an adult really for like the 2008 financial crisis. So I was like, I wonder what it's like to like when I'm gonna have to like be an adult going through like an economic crash. And like that was like the first one that I went through. And
Yeah.
it was just nuts for me personally, because it was like everything entertainment was just shut down like instantly, like in one day.
Yeah. So you weren't doing any events and you weren't doing
There
any
was,
big
yeah,
things.
yeah. There was like
Yeah.
no touring. There was no nightclubs. Like I even was like consulting for this app where it was like about meeting up in real life. Like that's not, you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
everything kind of got thrown off. So, but there was like good things that came out of it. So like, that probably happened like in 2020. So by the time like August of 2021 came around, I opened a nightclub with like four other partners. And so I guess COVID was helpful because in that sense, because I think we got like a good lease deal, and then a
Mm.
lot of the nightclubs that were opening or were open and were paying rent and stuff, they were like hurting. So we were kind of like the fresh thing on the block when COVID stopped. So There was pros and cons to both to like that whole situation, but that's kind of what ended up happening. So we opened a nightclub called Off Sunset. I did that for about 3 years. That was a big hit, especially like the first 2 years. Like bunch of like huge like celebrities that probably anyone you can think of probably went and
Yeah.
made good money. Did some really cool parties. And then, yeah, that stopped about like a year ago. And
Okay.
then now I'm kind of just producing music. I manage a few people. I do the political events. And then I have about a year left of my MBA. And so that's where we're at now with everything.
Yeah. Will you talk a little bit about the political events that you've been
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah. So I guess back to like my other point too, like I kind of always like have these feelings of like I'll get to like certain points,
Yeah.
get to a certain point in nightlife or a certain point in music, and then I start thinking like what's next or what can I do that's like bigger than this, and I'm like super grateful for like everything that I've been able to do and whoever I've been able to work with in both the music and the hospitality space. But I kind of got to a point where I was like, I feel like I want to do something on top of this that's like even more like meaningful. And so I had the idea of somehow getting involved in politics, but I just didn't know anyone in it. You know what I mean? And so it kind of was like hard for me to break into it, I guess, in a sense. And I kind of just started reaching out to some folks. I interned for like the mayor of like this city near me, like maybe like 2 years ago. And then it really started to move like this year around like January. I started reaching out to a few different like Democratic groups, and they started responding to me. And really, where I feel like my niche or where I could be of service to them was that I could help with doing their events. So I'm now the chair of events for this group called Stonewall Democratic Group, and so I did one fundraiser for them. I think April, the months now this year. Like,
Time
yeah,
doesn't make sense to me either.
yeah. I'm 32 now, so it's like at the time, like I'm like I
Yeah.
can't keep up with it. But it was around then. I
Yeah.
did the first one with them. There's this other group called Working Families Party that I reached out to, and so I work with them on events too, and that's who I did the after party for the California Democratic Convention. And so mainly working with them too. I have the 50th anniversary Stonewall event coming up in November. That'll be big. Like a lot of people are going to go to that. And then I think with Working Families Party, I'll do a couple more events. And then I think also like the election cycle is starting next year. So, we'll probably do events for candidates and people that are running again and all that good stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at right now
Yeah.
and how I
That
got there.
That's such a journey. And I
Yeah.
know that you describe it as like, not really getting into something and not really knowing where it'll take you. And I'm sure like when you were interning for the mayor, you had the same idea of like, well, I don't know how this will turn out, but it is meaningful. But like from the outside, and you mentioned this, there does seem to be momentum and like a through line that goes through everything that you've done. Do you have any sense of like why? Well, I'm just gonna say it, why you're so good at getting a following? Like, if you're a teenager and you're planning, even if it's just a party or an event, you gotta have people to come to that. Like, people are gonna want to be a part of it. And same thing when you get into the music business or you're getting these offers that are dropping in your lap. Do you have any sense of what that is that is like attracting people to the things that you're doing?
I think for one, like I try to be cool with everybody. So I hope there's not that many people that hate me. Like, you know what I mean? Because I try to be on the vibe where, I talk to everyone the same. You know what I mean? Like I could be talking to someone on the street or I could be talking to a huge celeb. Like I typically keep it like 100. Like I talk the same way with everyone, and I try to just be like a nice person first and foremost, because especially like in hospitality, like you have to, that's what I learned for sure. But also like I just feel like the way that I came up, like it was just so step by step that in some sense, like I'm really like just like a super normal like LA like you get what I'm saying? Like I didn't like grow up around any of it, and for me like there was just so many like highs and lows through it all that like it I still feel like the same person I was when I started, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
and then when it at least for me like it didn't happen like overnight. It was a lot of like steps. So it's yeah, I don't know. I just feel very like the same in my head compared to before. But I've also, I guess, I also know what it's like to be hot and what it's like to be not hot. And
Yeah.
so I feel like when you are hot or like when things are going, like you need to even be extra nice because at least for me, like it does seem like there's always been momentum, but like I quit Universal and then COVID hit. So I went from like, a year prior having like a platinum record or whatever with Youngblood and Halsey and whoever to all of a sudden like I have no work and nothing's happening and like I don't know if I'm gonna bounce back. And then Off Sunset ends up coming like a year later, right? So that like that's what I mean where it's like
Yeah.
I never know. I never know if I'm gonna bounce back or not. Like it's like you know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
kind of like how I view it. So it's like it's hard like when you're navigating through it like in the thick of it, you know?
Yeah. How have you done that? I mean, I have made decisions like that multiple times or taken big leaps or been like, okay, this isn't right. So I'm going to take what is perceived to be this big giant risk, even though I've probably thought about it for a year before I've done it. But like,
Yeah.
it is scary when you're in that like in between, you don't know what's like, are you planning? Are you thinking? Are you still reaching out? Are you like recuperating? Like, what's your strategy when you're in the middle there?
Yeah. Well, okay, like for one, I'm like super focused and I'm really like a workaholic. Like it's like really all I think about. It's like what I love to do and like I've been sober since I was 19, so it's kind of like my became like my new addiction in a sense. So like I don't, there's obviously like luck with it, but like I definitely feel like tapped in. You know what I mean? Like I feel like very hyper aware of like the decisions I make and I understand the risk. And sometimes it doesn't work out.
Right.
Like like I left Universal because I wanted to be a music manager and I had a few different things I was working with that I thought were going to blow up and then it ended up being a nightclub that was my next hit, right? So, it's sometimes like what I envision happening doesn't, but then like something else kind of carries me. But I would say that like it's hard. I mean, it's definitely not for everyone. There's like zero structure with what it feels like a bit
Yeah.
easier now because I know the history and like I'm aware like okay, like I'm probably gonna be hot for like 2 years and then like I'm gonna lose it and then it'll cool off for a year and then something else. Like that's kind of like my trajectory or my history, so I'm at least like aware of it. But yeah, like to people I date or family members or whoever, like they're like when it's not working, they're like, dude, like you're tripping. Like you know what I'm saying? So
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah. That still happens to me, by the way.
Yeah.
So so
I
that's kind
relate
of
wholeheartedly to that.
yeah, right? Yeah. So I think like, if that's like the path you want to pursue, then that's at least what it feels like for me. So
Yeah. So are you just like following your gut and following your heart or like,
always,
yeah.
always. Like I joke about this with my friend from like when we first started throwing parties in college. Like it never even crossed my mind to do a summer internship or to like send out a job application. Like I was like, I'm gonna throw parties. Like that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? I always had a hustle though going on to like pay for it though, right? So
Yeah.
originally I was teaching tennis lessons and I was using the tennis lesson money to like pay for the parties and then I was using the party money to like pay for the music stuff or like you get what I'm saying? So it was
Yeah.
always like one thing for the next. So I wasn't just like blindly like running into things with like no cash flow. But
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Let's talk about that from, especially from an entrepreneurial, from like a business model perspective. So many of the leaders that I have talked to we're talking about like how they're building community give back into their business model, or they are, finding ways to volunteer, but like on the clock as an organization. But it sounds like what you're doing is almost like leveraging the profits that you're making, the things that you're doing to pursue these other things, like to put on these political events. Am I understanding that that's kind of your thought process there?
Yeah, I definitely like, am more of on the vibe at least right now where I'm more giving my like time or like expertise
Yeah,
to organizations for free rather than like just straight up cash.
yeah,
There are, I have made some donations to some groups on like Act Blue or something, or I just sent something to a buddy that's like running for lieutenant governor or something yesterday. So like I'll do, but like it's like small things. Like I'm not like sending people, thousands of dollars or something like that. But an example of how like I am saving like groups money is, like the after event for the Democratic convention, they didn't end up having to put down any money for the venue. I ended up getting them the venue and then the club just takes the bar. Like you get what I'm saying? So I like know how to talk to these clubs and stuff like that because I had a club.
yeah.
And so indirectly I saved them like a good amount of money,
Hmm.
and then I
It's huge
obviously
for
like
their ROI. If you're not
yeah.
spending money on that stuff, then you get more money to actually like do the thing that you set out to do.
Yeah. So, and then I DJ'd it for free. Like I didn't ask them for money. So like the group or whatever. So basically like, yeah, I'm more like saving them money with how I know how to navigate it rather than me like personally like writing checks and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm not like against it. I don't
Right.
have like millions of dollars to
Right.
just
We're not
write.
all Bill Gates. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
What advice in thinking about that in particular? Again, I sit kind of right in the middle of for profits and nonprofits and like linking those up as partners together often. And I think that that is a huge thing that often is a blind spot for both sides of the house. Like you've got a for-profit business, an event space, a club, a whatever that's like, oh, I'm being hit up for donations all of the time. Don't you know that I'm a business? I'm trying to make money. I've got to pay people's paychecks and all these things. And you've got this charity that's like, well, come on, all we're asking is for this. We're just asking for one night. We're just asking for one thing. Like, but when you kind of learn about each other and you can speak each other's language and be like, all right, I know that you as a club owner need to get people in the door, you need word of mouth, you need advertising, you need people to spend money. And then this charity needs donations and advocacy and word of mouth. And like, how do we bring those things together? Like, what advice do you have for people as they're trying to bridge those kinds of gaps?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only advice I can give is, try to offer help with where your expertise is.
Yeah.
So, like, I just understand the nightlife world, and I know from having a nightclub, if I could get a guaranteed 500 person group to come to the club and spend at the bar, like, I would probably let them do it without asking for a fee because the bar will still do well, right? But if
Mm.
a group doesn't know that and like, hey, can we do it? Then yeah, you would try and hit them with like a event minimum or like you know what I mean? So that's just like that's what I know from doing the nightclub stuff. But I guess to someone else, it's like if you are knowledgeable about like another side, then lend that and then you can save that money.
Yeah. When you are, again, and talking about like your skills and the things that you've learned and how you just apply that to the next thing or apply your like your funding to the next thing or whatever that is, you're taking the lessons that you've learned from your previous thing and moving it into the next one. You talked about how you're going back to school right now. I know that this is contradictory to what you said earlier and that you never really know what the future holds, but like what's kind of rolling around in your head with where you're wanting to go next?
Yeah, the school thing was, I was just thinking it was around the time when COVID hit. I had these thoughts before, like I don't know if like insecure is the right word. It was just more like I just was aware that like my value before was who I knew.
Mm,
And I just was like, it's not sustainable. It's really hard doing that, you know what I mean? Because people like get in relationships, they get married, like, you know what I mean? So you constantly have to keep getting new relationships and stuff like that. And I just felt like that was like the one thing I didn't have was like the school cosign. And so I felt like if I did that and like, learned business or law or whatever, and then I would have that as well to like fall back on where I'm Connor, not the guy who's with so and so or knows so and so.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes
that's why I
sense.
did it.
Yeah. Another thing that I've been thinking about as you've been talking is And, we talked about how you're in California. I'm located in the Midwest or the South, depending on what day you talk to me on. But one thing that it has kind of struck me is the lens through which it seems like you look at the world. That even when you're describing like your personality or how you gather groups of people together, it's very much like, well, I just treat everyone the same way, which sounds like such a basic, like, no doubt, that's just the way that you treat people. But, I'm in the South, I'm in Kentucky right now. That's not always the way everyone looks at the world. There's a little bit of a different competition, dog eat dog world, and that there is a hierarchy. There is these like social chain, like there are different complexities. Do you think that growing up like on the West Coast versus Middle America or somewhere else, like, do you think that culture is what led you to be so passionate about like democratic and progressive values and pushing those things forward? Or was it your upbringing, or do you have any like idea of what that might have been?
I mean, I guess maybe like it could have just like from one sense, like, my parents got divorced when I was like 7. And so, that was like a pretty big event because then obviously their stuff split up and then it kind of caused me to move to like, I was like a block away from Venice High School and like it wasn't like the best place probably like in the 90s, and so I grew up around like a lot of different kinds of people. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And so, and by the way, like there was like really nice people that I grew up next to. I wouldn't say it was like the worst place in LA to ever live, but it definitely was like a lot different than where I was originally like born. I would say that like my at least like upbringing was more the vibe where like I probably was born like a upper middle class type kid, and then when my parents got divorced, I became more of like a lower middle class, and then it took my dad like a number of years to like bounce back type vibe.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
So
totally.
so it was more like I went from like living in like a big house to all of a sudden I'm like in a 2 bedroom where my dad's in one and I'm sharing one with my sister. And like it's like things that you're not really like registering. Like I didn't like think of it at the time as like a downgrade or something. I was like, oh, like my parents are just divorced, right? But then
Yeah,
you know, now I'm like living in an area where I'm around people from like all ethnicities. I'm around people that are like much older than me. I'm not around my dad all the time. And my mom is like a bit more like loose with like, you know what I mean? So it just, my like world kind of changed.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that it was a good thing. I think that like it made me grow up faster. But there was just like, a huge protest in downtown LA, like the No Kings protest. They're trying to come after like undocumented immigrants and all that kind of stuff. And like one of my best friends down the street from me, like his parents, I'm pretty sure, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
like I grew up around that. Like what him, there was another guy that was like a foster kid. Like there were like I would just like that's like what I grew up around. And so there was other things too, like on my mom's side of the family. Like I think my grandma's brother, like he married like a woman, I think that was like Japanese. So I grew up like where like so I just like was
Yeah.
never like just around only white people. Like definitely it's like my dad is from Ireland. He immigrated here like when he was like 23. So like that side of the family is definitely all white, but like I definitely never was like in a vibe where I was only around like white people or something like that. And I was like
Yeah,
always I was friends with a bunch of different people. So for me like so I guess maybe that's like why in one sense,
yeah,
but I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, my mom's whole side of the family is from Florida. And so I definitely, that's probably like more southern vibes, but I don't know. I just feel like I had like a pretty like well-rounded upbringing where I feel like I was kind of like in a melting pot of different people and vibes and stuff like that.
yeah, totally. I mean, it makes perfect sense that you're just like, I don't know, I just like never had to never had to
Yeah.
think about anyone else as anything different. Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
who.
that was just more the vibe. Like I just
Yeah,
kind of was like, yeah, like I have some friends that like live down the street that are like this. I have some friends like this, and like it was never like a weird thing. You know what I mean?
yeah, totally. And kind of thinking about like your philosophy and your lens of the way that you look at the world. you've owned nightclubs, you're in the music industry, like you have held all of these different types of connector and leadership roles. Like, can you talk a little bit about like what's your philosophy and your viewpoint when you're looking internally at an internal structure with like employees and hierarchy and all of those kinds of things? Like, what's your leadership mentality? Like, what are your kind of like rules of the business there?
I also there try I talk to everyone like an equal. You know what I mean? Like I don't I feel weird like projecting like I'm like hot. You get what I'm saying? Because like
Yeah.
I know what it's like being in the other position, and I felt like a lot of people wronged me when I was coming up. You
Mm,
know what I mean? Where like I was like taken advantage of when I was trying to you get what I'm saying? Where like I was
mhm.
getting underpaid or people didn't pay me or this because like they thought they could get away with it, you know? So
Yeah.
when I talk to people now, like I try to like even like even when I was doing off Sunset and there was like new promoters that were there, like I always try to like be super nice and like supportive and what because I remember when I was starting, like everyone was like not everyone, but like a lot of them were like just dicks and like we're like, oh, new guy, like screw you, like you know what I'm saying? And it's like I don't know why like it has to be like that.
Right. It's something that I think about all the time. In my journey, I feel like so many of the jobs that I've worked, especially as I've gotten older, started out really liking the company, really loving the vision, like, all right, I'm going to make a difference here. I see where I fit in, love the leadership, love who my supervisors are, love I'm in lockstep with the CEO. And then like a leadership change happens or a big event, like something happens and it switches and we're like, yeah, I'm no longer on the same page as you here. Like, when did this happen? And it's interesting the way that that shift can happen so quickly. And like, my idea has always been, and I wonder if you're similar to this, of like, I'm a little bit of a lifelong learner when you're talking about like going after all of these different mentors and like holding multiple jobs at one time, like a little bit reflective of the way my life has been as well. But then when I'm in roles, even if it's been things that I've built myself, like my own company, I'm constantly working to replace myself. I'm like, I'm here for the challenge. I'm here to learn. I'm here for the skills. I'm here to get it off the ground and to get it to the next level. And then I want to train the next person to do the job and I want to move on to the next type of thing. And like, I relate and that I also am like, and I also want the other person to have a better foundation and to have a better situation than mine because I work to make it easier. And I wonder if that is at all relatable to you there.
Yeah, no, I feel like you brought up a good point because, and I didn't really think of it like this, but like, I guess like I'm similar to you where like what I'm doing now is not the end goal. So it's almost like I'm not even like worried about being replaced in it. Like, it almost would be like, I would love to show you everything that I'm doing if like this is what you want to do. And if you want, you get what I'm saying? Where maybe when I was like coming up, all these people were like super weird and like gatekeepy with me because like that's what their position was and they weren't intending on moving up. And so maybe they were like threatened by it or something, but like that wasn't even what my final destination was gonna be anyways. So I personally was like, you didn't need to like be that difficult or weird with me because even if like I'm trying to do something else, like we could have done something together in the future, but now like I feel weird because when I was like 22 or 23, you like underpaid me or didn't pay me or tried to like shaft me or like you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like you're trying to like correct the things and be like, it doesn't need to be like this for the next person.
Yeah, like I told there's no way anyone that like worked under me or for me or whatever at Off Sunset was like, oh, he's a dick. Like I was like totally like you know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
why? Like
Yeah.
just it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard, especially at that time. Like I know what it's like, you know, where it's like there was like a point like I think like in 2015, like I dropped out of school originally, like my senior year because the nightlife stuff was taking off, but I had put all this money into this like house I was renting with like this other guy because it was gonna help with the nightlife stuff and I
Yeah.
literally one night didn't even have enough money to like buy a pizza and I was like tripping out. You know what I mean? So like, you don't know what some of these like newer people are like going through where they're like literally on the verge of like not, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like those lessons that we learn, especially when we're younger, like this is capitalism for good. So we do talk about money and like what are the things that you've learned to create stability for you to be able to like keep jumping from thing to thing and chase these different things? Like what advice do you have for people, especially in such a chaotic world, to like create that stable foundation so that you can, one, chase the things that you want to chase next, but two, be able to like give back, like the stuff that you're doing with your political events and DJing for free and all of those kinds of things.
Yeah, well, I guess for the stability part, I recommend like if you're able to setting aside or saving like 20 to 25%
Yeah.
of the money that you have coming in, because I think especially like when you're an entrepreneur and you're like building your business, like if you're bootstrapping it and you're paying for everything yourself, right? It's like the more money you put in, the faster it grows. But then also, it's like, what happens if you don't get paid on time and then all of a sudden you don't have enough money for like food? You know what I mean? Like these were things I was going through like in the beginning. And when the pizza incident happened, I would say like a year after that, that's when I kind of was like, okay, like I'm gonna start saving like 20% everything I like bring in at least so that I have like money in the reserve, so but things stabilized a bit because by then like I was starting to get a bit more established and stuff, but I guess that's like my advice.
I used to have this philosophy when I was like, when I was first starting my business, and I was like, I'm investing in myself here instead of investing in all of these other people's like dreams and goals. I'm investing in myself here.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. Okay, so I know that you said that you don't really know where you're going next
Yeah.
fully, but you're chasing these things like, but like, can you describe what that end goal is? Like, where, what does your North Star look like in maybe vague terms? It seems like maybe something in the political world or something that makes you feel good about what's going on, or what? Yeah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm in an interesting crossroads right now. I would say there's like three pillars of what I'm doing right now. Like there's the hospitality pillar, there's the music pillar, and then the political pillar. It's just so hard, like especially like working in the entertainment industry, like you just don't really know what opportunity comes up. I did recently get hit up about a hospitality project. So like I could be in a position where like a hotel group comes to LA or a big nightlife group comes to LA and they want to make me the face and I'm the main person that's like organizing everything and I could maybe focus more on that. Maybe the political events take off and maybe if like AOC announces she runs next year or some other big political figure. Maybe they bring me on to help with organizing the events or DJ it. Maybe like the music production stuff that I'm doing right now, maybe one of the songs does well, and then I'll put more money into working with bigger artists and bigger producers. So that's kind of like where it's at. Kind of just trying to focus on like getting as far as I can before I graduate the MBA program in a year. Because
Mhm.
once I'm done with that, then I really got to focus on like making as much money as possible.
Yeah.
Whereas right now I can focus a bit more on like speculative, like networking, building out. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
So,
also sounds like another way. I'm putting words in your mouth, so tell me if I'm wrong, but that
yeah.
sounds like another way of creating that stability of like, it's not just financial stability, it's also creating like a structure within your own life of like, okay, so you're working really hard at your education piece, so you can have this degree, so you can check that box, but you're also like, you've got all of these other irons in the fire of like, but it also takes the networking, but you also need to have these other skills. You need to keep those things sharp. Like all of those things are related to creating a structure that will help you in the future.
they all help me, by the way, right? Because the political contacts I make and the music contacts, that could all lean into if I did a hospitality project. The hospitality stuff works because then I could invite them to come to the political events. Like it all works hand in hand. But yeah, I'm more just on a vibe right now. I'm trying to like just build out my moat, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just trying to like build out as much as I can because, like once I'm done with the school part, yeah, I really got to focus on making money because this college loans are scary.
Yeah.
You
Because
know?
college is expensive. Uh-huh.
Yeah, USC is not cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. But they do great things. I mean, you're in a great university system.
Yeah. So,
I come from a research background, and the things that are coming out of all of the USC schools are huge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The business school's good. Like I definitely feel like it was worth the time and money and all that. But
Yeah.
I'm sure you're in the same boat. There's certain times where you can focus more on just building out your brand and speculative stuff, and then there's other times where you got to monetize it. So
Yeah.
next year will be monetized. This year it's just how far can I get with everything as fast as possible.
Uh-huh. And then it's helpful to, I don't know if you relate to this as well, but like for me, especially being an entrepreneur, and I just heard this the other day from another leader that I was interviewing, Lindsay of Plain Products was talking about like when you're an entrepreneur and you're a business owner, you set your own to-do list every day. Like you are your own motivation. And like I'll tell you that yesterday was a day where I somehow had zero meetings on the calendar. I was ahead of most of the things that I had to do. My actual like deadline work was really minimal. But you know what I really needed to do? I really needed to work out. So I worked out for like 2.5 hours and got that in as
Oh,
much as I could. I really needed to clean. So I did a bunch of stuff at home and I really needed to like tackle a bunch of laundry and then needed to like rest my brain. So then I read for a while. And it's like that flexibility works really well for me, but it's also like that's not being lazy. That's investing in the other parts of your life so you're not worried and you're not stressed about it later. And like it does all work together. Although from someone who's used to just like having a typical 9 to 5 job, you do the same thing every day. They're probably like, "What are you doing? You're such a bum that you didn't do anything today." And you're like, "Well, you didn't see the 16-hour days that I put in for the last 2 weeks."
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that's how my life is too. There's like certain days where I have a bunch of stuff going on, and then I've been more on your vibe too. Like I used to like always watch these like podcasts where people are like, "Oh, I get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep and I work out." Like I feel like, it's like it's a marathon, not a sprint. You know what I mean? Like I definitely try to be on your vibe where I try to take time for myself. I even play video games sometimes. I play Fortnite. Like
yeah,
just helps me relax. So it's just as important because otherwise, like, you're just kind of working all the time, and it's like there's always like more stuff to do, and it's like
yeah,
you don't want to like, burn out either.
yeah. I've hit those burnout points in my life, and I often I at my last burnout, for like a year afterwards, I would just tell people like my brain is broken right now. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not helpful to a single person. My brain is broken. I just need to like let that get back to like a normal equilibrium. And I find that like when I'm doing things like out on a walk or a run or reading or like focusing on something else, then I get all of these ideas or I remember this thing and that's what like jumps me forward of like, oh, that was the missing piece that I didn't realize. Like all I need to do is chase that, but I just need to like let my brain breathe for a minute so that I can figure those things out. But like if you asked me at 20 years old, I would have been like, yeah, I sleep 4 hours a night and I pack as much as I can through the day and I don't say no to a single thing. And it's just that mentality shift has been like really key for me.
Yeah, no, I feel like people don't talk about it enough. It's like super important. 'Cause I feel like you get new ideas and like inspirations too. I go on walks all the time for no reason. I'll just listen to my like iPod or my phone or whatever. And because sometimes like there's no inspiration. So it's like why grind out when there's no inspiration? Because some days you could just get a crazy idea and then you're just on like a 9 hour run where you're just going for it because, you can't force it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's always things to do. Like I can sit down on my computer and I can cross things off the list that are like, don't take a ton of brain power and you still like kind of feel productive. But there are some days that you're like, this is gonna kill me if I just sit here and do something that's just crossing things off a list.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, it's like literally how I feel. I really don't have that much of a structure. Like I kind of just I mean I play tennis in the morning, so I kind of wake up like around the same time, but aside from that, it's not like at like noon I'm gonna do this. And like it's always kind of sporadic. It's like I'll have some like lunch meetings or this or that, and then I usually just write down everything on my notes on my phone for like what I need to get done. That's how I organize it.
Yeah, I do that too. That and I still like typical millennial women write things down pen and paper.
I used to do that, but now I do notes on my phone for things I have to get done, and then everything meetings and call wise, I just put it in my calendar on my phone. That's
Yeah.
how that's how I organize my whole thing.
Yeah.
Kind of
I
like winging it.
yeah. You hit on you've talked about like playing tennis and like sports growing up, and I come from a sports family. I played sports, I ref sports, we're avid sports family, and that is a big part of how I connect to the business world is I'm like using these sports analogies all the time of like being a team player, your GM is like the owner of the team and the coaches in all these like different things, and you're on a team sport and everyone has their own job and their own specialty and you're all working together and you're building momentum and you got to sell tickets to the clients to the like all of those kinds of things. Do you recognize any of those through lines in the way that you look at the world from the things that you learned from sports growing up?
Yeah, like kind of, but then at the same time, like most of my experience in tennis was me by myself. So like
Mhm.
in some respects, I'm not used to like relying on other people because it's been just me alone on the court.
Yeah.
Now, I definitely did play a lot of doubles in tennis going up, and then also like in high school and college, it was more of a team type dynamic. So I'm like kind of accustomed to it, but it wasn't like I grew up playing basketball or football where it was really like a real team effort. So sometimes, yeah, sometimes I don't know if it's good like for my mentality for work and stuff because I'm just so used to like being it all on me, you
Yeah,
know?
that's what I was thinking is I wonder if that has actually served you well to
Yeah.
be in a more of an individual sport because then you've got the courage and it feels natural to you to do all of these other things on your own and be like, yeah, I'm just going to throw this party. Yeah, I'm just going to jump into the music business. Like, yeah, I'm just going to help out with this event.
Right. Yeah, that I would say that's more my vibe. I need to get better at that. I need to get better at like the team dynamic stuff. Not because I'm like a ball hog or selfish or whatever. I'm just like not used to being able to like trust other like you know what I'm saying? I'm used to
Yeah.
like if I miss the forehand in the net, like I just lost the point. You
Yeah.
know, where so yeah, that's like the one thing maybe that's like not good about me playing tennis growing up.
I disagree, but there's
Yeah.
always things to, if there's another thing that I'll like reflect back to you is it seems like you're another one of those like lifelong learners that's just
Yeah.
always trying to like grow and evolve and like find your next thing and, expand your brain a little bit.
Yeah, no, that totally. If you were to tell me like, 5 or 7 years ago, whatever, that I'd be doing my MBA at USC, I'd be like, that's you're crazy because my grades when I was originally in school were terrible. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like I will not know where things will be 5 years from now. But who knows? Maybe I get sick of innovating, and I'm just gonna chill on my couch and play Fortnite.
That doesn't that sound like the dream? And also
Yeah.
sounds like you'd get bored of it. I would get bored
Yeah.
of it after a while.
Yeah.
In kind of thinking of that, of like being a lifelong learner and looking outside at other people, my last question that I have for everyone is who's another business or leader that you see out there in the world that is doing it the right way and making a positive impact? And it could be anyone from like an old boss, a coworker, a client, someone that you're a customer of, like absolutely anyone, but someone that you think deserves a shout out.
As far as like giving back to the community and all that kind of stuff, or
That's great. Or even just someone that you're like, oh, they're a really great entrepreneur. They're really great in the music business. Like just anyone that you look up to.
man, that's a tough one. I don't know, maybe like Warren Buffett or something like
Okay.
that. He seems kind of like a level-headed guy, and I think I read in the news that he's gonna like give everything away when he passes, right? So
Yeah.
I guess like I can't criticize that if that's what he's doing. But
Yeah.
he seems like a pretty like normal, down to earth guy. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like he's like jaded, like you know what I mean by the whole thing. So I like his vibe. I think I watched one of his documentaries or things like where he just still drives like the same car from like 20 years ago and goes to McDonald's, and that's like my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And then
mean,
he's gonna make this huge impact by like giving away all this money. I heard Bill Gates is trying to do the same thing of just like, I'm not
yeah.
passing all this down to my kids. I'm trying to give away as much as possible.
Yeah, I think, all of that stuff's like admirable. So, I guess like I would have to that's like the main thing that would maybe come to mind.
Yeah.
I never thought about that before. I don't. I don't like necessarily like look up to like one person. I
Yeah,
just kind of like take bits and pieces of inspiration from a lot of different people because
yeah,
kind of like what I'm doing is like more of like a hybrid thing. So it's like hard to like base it just off one person, but there's like a lot of people I take inspiration from.
yeah. Because you're doing like a gajillion different things. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not surprising at all.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like it, but it's like, it all like coincides. I don't know, maybe in the future like things will turn into more like hybrid type entrepreneurial like stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it already kind of sounds like, again, I'm trying to like hold a mirror up to you, but like it already kind of sounds like it is all connected, even though it feels like they're these different things.
Yeah,
Like,
it's totally all connected. It's all
yeah,
connected because it's like, some like there'll be some people that are like music consulting clients and then, there's like hospitality projects that I do and then the political events and all of those people could go to the events or like so it all like kind of like is in one ecosystem.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Well, this has been really great. I thank you so much for doing this. I wish you all the best. I can't wait to hear about like the gajillion other things that you're going to do in the future,
Yeah.
especially
I'll
like
give you
once you're
updates
done with
on a few of the events.
school.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'll give you updates on some of the events that I have coming up. And then if I'm ever in your neck of the woods for one of the events, I'll definitely send you an invite if you want to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed through the Patreon. These subscriptions are what fund the project and keep it going. There's so many different tiers available starting at $1 and $2 a month, and each tier gets you access to different kinds of things. So, for example, the $2 a month listener tier gets you access to interviews on Thursdays, so early access to the audio and video versions of interviews that are out every Thursday, typically in the evening time. Your $3 a month member tier adds on these weekly between the interview series on Mondays. That's what I gave a little sneak peek. There are some early examples of those between the interviews that were posted on the main feed so that folks could kind of get a lay of the land and what's behind the motivation for this project. Those reflection episodes are still going every Monday, and the folks in that member tier are still have access to those things. The VIP tier has access to merch. I really do my best to give back to those that are joining. So check the show notes for the link to the Patreon. There's a lot there. If you're interested in any of the behind the scenes of like how this project gets made from the back end, like if you are someone who is interested in starting anything that looks similar to this, whatever your topic is, like I am really open, just like I'm asking these folks that I'm interviewing about like the mistakes that they made. I do my best to be very open about the mistakes and the lessons learned that I made, plus the resources that really helped me, the people that I'm looking up to. Like I yeah, why not share my experience there? So that's all available there. And just in general, I truly want to hear from you. So please message me on Instagram, message me on the Patreon, leave me a review that tells me what you think of it. Email me your thoughts and your suggestions, including the things that you don't like. I got tough skin, people. You can tell me the things that I need to improve upon. I am very open about early days, early stage, that this entire project and almost everything that goes into it is brand spanking new to me. And I am learning, not just from these leaders that I'm interviewing, but I'm learning about the technical side of things. I'm learning about social media. I'm learning about advertising. Like, I'm learning about all of these types of things. And I am happy to share what I have learned as well. And so I want your feedback. I want the things that I'm not talking about that you want to hear about that is within this Capitalism for Good space. So reach out to me. I want to hear from you. I truly do. Send me your thoughts and I'll do your research. Like I said, I really am listening and kind of creeping to see where people are coming from, where you're located, what your interests are. And so, if there's an industry or an interest of yours that I haven't hit on that you are really interested, like some of your thoughts, if you have a question that is related to this Capitalism for Good project, I'll do the research here. So, send them on over. I'm already doing it. I might as well do something that fits what you're asking for and what you're looking for. Finally, my last little plug and shout out here is if you are interested in working together to build better community, check out the business website for CFG. It's at capitalism for good.com. There's also a link down in the show notes. And whether you are interested in starting or expanding a community give back initiative with your company, if you want to plan a volunteer day and you don't want someone that's already your full time employee taking away from their normal job to do it, if you're looking for a charity partner within a specific space or that aligns cleanly with your company values and your philosophy, or if you want to perhaps talk about some education around the value of community partnerships and what that can add to your business if done well and done efficiently and effectively, I would love to help. So I'd be happy to get on a phone call, see how CFG can help you with your community goals. Once again, would love to hear from you if you've got thoughts, needs, questions, interest anywhere within that space. I truly believe that we are stronger when we work together and that we can truly make a really impactful, positive future if we just put all our brains and our skills together and leverage those things to build better community. So, all right, that's enough. Let's go leave this place better than we found it.